Hi everyone, it's Erin from the Homesteader Next Door, and I'm going to talk about rosemary. Rosemary is super easy to grow. It's great to use with all of the meats. It can be a little overpowering with vegetables, but for meats it's fantastic. It's easy to dry and store, and the simplest thing is to start your new rosemary plants in the fall, or you can do them over winter in the greenhouse. I take a cutting that is 10 to 12 inches long, and I just strip off the bottom 4 inches or so. And the easiest way to get them to root fast is to just take a piece of sandpaper, I fold it over, and I take off just the outer layer so that can root in the water. And then pop it into a vessel of cool water. Now that is going to stay in the water for a couple of weeks. You might need to change the water, keep an eye on it. In the meantime, you're going to be looking for little roots. If you don't have sandpaper close by, you can take a knife, and this is just a ceramic knife, and just expose. You can see we've just exposed some of that stem. Brush away that excess. We're going to pop that right in the cool water. So if you don't have a sandpaper, that's okay. You can use a knife. The other thing is you can either use a branch that is already started to branch. They form a really nice plant. Or you can use one that hasn't branched. And once it starts to root, you're going to prune it. And when you prune it back, it will send out branches nicely. Once they're rooted in the water for a couple of weeks, you'll see little white roots come out. And then it's time to move them into your potting mix. And I like to use a sterile potting mix if possible. And you can choose to use rooting hormone if you want. You don't really have to use rooting hormone, but it does increase the chances of success. Once you do that, you can pop your rosemary right down into the potting soil, and within 4 to 6 weeks, you have a strong new plant. They will be ready to be repotted or transplanted at that time. If you're going to be selling them, you can upsize the pot and let them get even bigger, doing a little pruning to get them to encourage to branch out when the spring hits. And it's just really easy. And again, if you don't have any sandpaper, just use a knife. Or if you have a hoary knife, if you have a sharp spade, any sharp edge will do it. If you grow your rosemary from seed, it's going to take a couple of years. It's really slow to germinate. It has a very slow germination rate. Even with mats, heat mats, and attention to detail, it can take a long time. I used to grow it from seed. Stopped doing that in the last couple of years. All of the rosemary that I grow to share is grown from cuttings. The funny part is that the rosemary plant that I use as the mother and harvest so much of it from was actually pulled out of a yard. Somebody complained that it was dead, and it wasn't dead. It was resting. It got pulled out. It was thrown in the back of a truck. Brought it home and planted it, and it's been living comfortably for 5 or 6 years and has produced many rosemary plants in the meantime. It's been a beautiful plant to work from. See, nice exposure on that. We just plop it right in there. In the meantime, while your rosemary is rooting in the water, it makes a wonderful air freshener. So you can set that rosemary anywhere and it will keep the room smelling fresh. You can put it in the greenhouse. It's fine there. But just wait for a couple of weeks till it starts to root, and then pop it into your sterile potting mixture and let it root. And you will be able to tell when it has rooted, because you'll be able to tug on each little sprout and you'll get resistance. So you'll know that it's been rooted and that it's ready to upsize to a bigger pot or ready to transfer into the ground. Well, happy planting, and I hope you get out there and get your hands dirty today.